they coincide, so we can get some answers.
Okay. I'm happy to answer any questions you have that I can't answer, and it's up to FERC if they want to do it that way. But I'm happy to. I'm here, and I can only speak for myself, so I'm happy to answer any questions I can on behalf of Williams.
You can?
I can try to answer any questions that I can.
Okay. All right. You got that one? Okay. You want to go first?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. What would it take for an individual or a group of individuals not to have the pipeline come through their property if they wished it wouldn't come through?
Well, I mean, that's something that every single project that we do, we look at alternatives. And at the end of the day, we're looking for the best route that balances impacts on people and the environment. So, that's why we're here tonight. Is why we're looking at trying to identify what issues there are with the existing route, so that we can modify our route if necessary to try to accommodate that. We just did a project up in New York where we started with a line on a piece of paper for the Constitution Project, and as a result of just impact that we've what we've heard from people like meetings here tonight, from agencies, actually changed about 50% of the route.
Okay.
So it's a dialogue, and it's a long process.
Let me ask you this. If you had a group of landowners in one of these counties that the Atlantic Sunrise is going through,
Okay.
and they all, let's say there's 15 of them, and they all said they didn't want it, what's your next step?
I mean, number one, we're going to do whatever we can to try to, reach a mutually beneficial agreement. We're going to look at alternatives, and if we can't go through one area, if there's legitimate environmental issues or legitimate concerns that we can, if we can accommodate that, and we can go around that, then that's something that we'll look very, very hard at. One thing about these are interstate pipelines, and that there's these pipelines have been in the ground. Transco pipeline has been providing gas to Pennsylvania, for example, for 50 years, and that pipeline goes through a lot of states and a lot of counties in order to, for the last 50 years, to deliver that gas from the Gulf of Mexico up to Pennsylvania. So it's one of these things where you have to look. That's why you have regulatory agencies like FERC, because their job is to balance kind of the bigger picture with those individual concerns.
Okay. Has anybody ever stopped a pipeline in a county, in a whole complete county? Or do you resort to eminent domain?
I mean, that is something that's a last resort. We've had projects that have been delayed significantly because we've had to spend a great deal of time working with a particular landowner, trying to address a particular issue, and ultimately, at the end of the day, that's something that's what we want to do. Is we're trying to come up with something that balances the impacts with the need to build that infrastructure. So it's a balancing act.
Now, has FERC ever not rubber stamped gas line?
Has FERC? I mean, that's a question for the FERC regarding their application process. But here's the thing, is that before a pipeline company like ours goes to FERC with an application, we've had times where we will file an application and issues come up and we will withdraw that application. We're not going to go through the entire certification process crossing our fingers unless we know that we have market support and we know that we have done our best to minimize those environmental impacts. If there are outstanding issues like the market hasn't firmed up like we thought we would, we are not going to get to the point where we actually file that application, or once we file it, we may withdraw that. So that has happened many times.
Okay, so this pipeline is destined for export to ship gas on an export basis. That's true, right?
The Transco pipeline exists today. The Transco pipeline provides 10% of the nation's natural gas and provides a third of the gas that's used in Pennsylvania. So when we're talking about this pipeline, the Transco pipeline connects with markets all up and down the East Coast, including the Transco pipeline connects to a pipeline that's connected to the Cove Point facility. So without this project, conceivably molecules of gas could go from Transco to the other pipeline to Cove Point.
Okay.
That's not what this project is about.
But a lot of pipelines and the efforts of Williams and all the other gas line companies is a rush to export at this point in time.
There is an effort underway to install infrastructure, because what's happened is that 2 years ago, there was only our system connected to about 225 million cubic feet of gas in Pennsylvania. Today it's 3.5 billion.
But today,
So what's happened is that you have this production that is taking place in Pennsylvania, but you don't have the infrastructure. And because the infrastructure is not in place, there is what you call a rush to get that infrastructure into place to deliver it to whatever markets are going to consume that gas. And in Transco's case, we deliver 10% of the gas up and down the East Coast already. So what's interesting though is you've got customers for this project as far south as Southern Company in Alabama, a power producer that wants access to Marcellus gas, because Marcellus gas trades significantly cheaper than the gas that they currently have access to. So those are things that from an economic standpoint is a good thing for them and their customers.
in reference to export shipping, okay, this whole hype about Marcellus gas was to be a bridge fuel working toward alternative energies. Okay, now with this rigorous rush, alternative energies is pretty much out the window right now because there's a rush to get this in here. So when this gas goes to Cove Point, to Asia, to the Ukraine, can you guarantee me that the price of gas is going to remain low in the United States? I doubt it, because it's going to be sold to the highest bidder. So what is the advantage to the people in the United States?
The advantage to people in the United States is there is more natural gas in the United States than there is oil in Saudi Arabia, and you have more. You have this glutton of natural gas in the United States that people, consumers all throughout the Transco system in other parts of the country. Natural gas is cost effective, more cost effective than other fuels, and natural gas also has a lot of environmental advantages. So that's why for us, one of our biggest customers, our biggest customers is power producers. We've got power plants all up and down our system that generate electricity that 10 years ago used coal, and today they're burning that with natural gas.
Okay. There is a mountain of evidence by scientific organizations throughout the United States that the natural gas adds more greenhouse damage than what coal does because of the methane. It's more potent than the CO2 coming from coal. So there's an environmental issue, whether it's at the wellhead, compressor station, evacuation facility, or Cove Point, who has to build a monumental industrial electric facility just to run that plant. Now, here's the other thing. Citizens in the United States, Pennsylvania mainly, have absolutely no recourse to this operation.
How do you define this operation?
Any aspect, any
interstate transmission pipelines. You're talking about the natural gas industry in general.
Yes. Now, how about a wholesale industrialization of rural America? It's kind of really what it is. Right now, when you talk about cost effectiveness of this, what's the lifespan of an unconventional gas well?
Of an unconventional what?
Gas well.
Gas well. I'm not on the production side, so I'm not sure.
Oh.
All we do, we're like a railroad.
Look.
We're like a railroad. We transport the gas from point A to point B.
Oh, I agree. There's some railroading going on. I mean, see, the thing is, unconventional gas. This is what you're transporting in your line. Okay. Now I can.
What is the unconventional gas? I'm not following there.
You don't know the difference between shale gas and conventional gas?
No, I'm not. That's what I'm asking. What are you referring to? Shale gas.
Shale gas is unconventional gas.
Okay.
Okay? You understand what tight gas is? Tight oil?
Sure.
Okay, that's what this is. All right. This is not your grandfather's gas well, where you drop a straight pipe into the ground with a pool of accessible gas that can go on for 70 to even 100 years. Average lifespan, conventional gas well, on the good side is 17 years.
Okay.
So that means in order to keep the production up, to justify the service, drilling. So your pipelines, yours, Central New York Oil and Gas, Energies, are essentially the enablers to turn this into like a fracturing conveyor belt through this area. Now, I know you're going to tell me you have nothing to do with gathering lines, you have nothing to do.
I'm not saying I have nothing to do with it. What we're saying is that we're here tonight talking about the transmission line. We don't operate gathering lines. But yes,
Well, let me
it's
ask you something.
part of an industry,
If there was
and we're all related.
If there were no wells here, would you be building an infrastructure?
No, sir. It's
Right,
all related.
Right, it's all related. So, I'm
But
sorry,
I can't speak on behalf of a producer because that's not my area of expertise.
Look, I'm sorry, but your agency, your company, gas companies, or subcontractors, you love to compartmentalize things, and it's great. Honestly, I can't let you get away with it. I just can't.
No, I'm not trying to get away with anything. I'm trying to explain to you that
You're trying to say that you have nothing to say about that.
I'm saying that that's not my area of expertise, and that our company operates a transmission line, and that if there's concerns you have about production, for example, this isn't the forum necessarily to address that. These people we're not producers, so we can't.
Williams is not a producer.
We don't produce gas. That's correct.
Williams does not drill any wells.
No, we do not.
WPX.
We don't operate WPX. WPX is a separate company.
John, make sure you tell them about the pipeline up by you and how fast they use eminent domain.
Yeah. When the Central New York Oil and Gas pipeline went through Sullivan and Bradford County, it was connected in Davidson Township. Okay. It's only a 39-mile pipe. In that 39 miles, 650 acres had to be clear cut. 250,000 trees had to be removed. There's 122 sensitive stream crossings. And according just to the DEP, 4 of those stream crossings were a disaster. Little Muncie Creek and Muncie Creek has been affected. Little Loyalsock has been affected. The Loyalsock Creek has been affected. And there's no fixing that. Don't fix that. Your claims of reclamation after the pipeline is installed, I want to be nice and say it's misleading. You're not reclaiming anything. You're not putting back trees because you can't. When you cross a farm, they can't farm over that if they plant street farm, apple orchard, they can't do that. So you're creating these unnatural pathways. You're fragmenting the forest.
One of the things we do is when we're siting a pipeline, we do our best to route it along existing corridors or existing, say, electrical transmission corridors. So if there's a disturbance in an area, we're going to site it along that existing disturbance. So that's actually what our regulators encourage us to do.
Straightest distance between 2 points is a straight line. That's also the cheapest. When I was an intervener on the Mark I, Central New York Oil and Gas, which we delayed for 18 months, and if we'd have hung on another month, they'd have lost their investment. And hoping to do that. Now, as an intervener, we sat down even with their vice president who flew in from Kansas City. I met with Louis Scranton, and he says, what will it take for you guys to shut up and go? And we said, for you to go. We said, just the way you make straight pipes, they make elbows. You go around our community. Straight answer was, that's not going to happen. We're not spending one dime extra than we meant to. Now you're going to tell me that Williams is a corporation above and beyond. Any corporation, the corporate business model is you maximize your profits by minimizing your cost and increasing shareholder investment. You're not going to put my concerns and my property, concerns of the community, before that. That's not your job. If you did that, you'd be out.
John, you want to take this one?
And
No, you want to take this?
no. As far as
That's my stuff.
oh, here we go. Excuse me. How do you compensate landowners when this happens?
I don't understand. What is that?
Well, I'll read it if you want. I'll read it out loud.
When you tell me what it is, and I'll tell you what we do.
All right, this is when a pipeline, I'll just read it here. Natural gas pipeline, this comes from the water library. Natural gas pipelines come with significant drawbacks. While it is true that natural gas burns more efficiently and cleanly than oil, it is still considered a volatile gas that can cause fires and explosions with relative ease. Ruptured natural gas lines are the major cause of home fires. In fact, using natural gas to heat your home can cause your homeowner's insurance premiums to rise significantly. Now,
Thank you for coming.
this also means that it goes on to say here, there's insurance coverage, pipeline infrastructure. You put a pipeline across my property, that's not covered by my homeowner's insurance. If there's an incident and I am sued by my neighbor, either a nuisance suit or a libel suit, I'm not covered. That means I have to take out a separate policy to cover that, which is on my property. Why should I do that? Why would I want to do that? Also, mortgage companies, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Citibank won't issue a mortgage on property that has a natural gas pipeline. I'm sure you know nothing about that, which is why I'm telling you.
Right. No, I've heard that before. I've heard that. That is a claim that I don't think it's been substantiated. That is a.
Oh my word.
We operate 10,000 miles of pipe. We operate pipe in this county. We operate pipe in Pennsylvania that we've operated since the 1950s. And we have not heard of anyone being denied insurance because they have a pipeline on the property. And when you're talking about the incidents that you're talking about distribution lines. You're talking about the lines that go to people's homes. And there's a lot more miles of pipe of distribution lines feeding people's homes. And those are pipes that
No, and I'll explain to you why. Because the distribution line that comes from the city gate is under 14 pounds PSI.
But when you're talking about
When you're talking about a
when you're
transmission
talking
line,
about accidents that occur, the higher percentage of accidents that occur are related to distribution lines, not
then
transmission lines.
what they consider to be the area of high consequence for saying even a 32 inch line under 1,300 pounds?
I couldn't say that.
Almost a quarter of a mile.
Okay.
Why would all of that next line.
And that's why we do what we do in order to protect the line and to keep it safe. We've operated in this county. The Transco system has operated in this county safely for more than 50 years. For more than 50 years. That is a track record that we're very proud of. And the fact that we're putting in for this project, we're going above and beyond federal regulations. We're putting in thicker wall pipe than we have to put in.
What about the Williams track record for violations? I have that here too.
And I'm talking about this pipeline and
I'm
our track
talking
record
about
here.
Williams.
We've had incidents that have happened on Williams pipeline, on Williams as a whole. Those are things that every time there's an incident, when there's an incident, we look into, we figure out why it happened,
And you
we
learn
try
from
to prevent that from happening again.
And then you go back and restore those people's lives. You're done.
That is something that is extremely, we have a very good track record, and when something like that happens, that is something that is very, is very regrettable when somebody loses their life, and fortunately that does not happen very often, and that was very, very, very unfortunate. I know what you're talking about, and that's something that as a company is something that was very unique.
2003, 2008, 2011,
You're talking about fatalities. And I'm talking about the fatalities that happened in Geismar, Louisiana, to 2 employees. And that's something that does not happen. Fortunately, that does not happen very frequently. And that's something that was very, very, very was very unique, and something that we're working very hard to make sure that that does not happen.
I can tell you, since 2011, the pipeline explosions, breaks, and spills has increased dramatically. It's very easy to find information. We have a person that researches that for us. I can send you the documents, and there's been fatalities. If I remember right,
We
there's
haven't
27
We
fatalities.
haven't had a public fatality on the
Oh my word, sir!
on the Transco pipeline
I'm not talking about.
since the 1960s.
There you go, trying to compartmentalize things.
Yes.
Why do you do that? It serves you no purpose and insults people.
I'm trying to answer your questions,
We have the information.
and you're just antagonizing me. And all I'm trying to do is give you direct answers, respectful answers to your questions.
You're giving-
And you're just antagonizing.
You're giving me pre-vetted answers.
Giving you answers to questions that have come up, and this is giving you honest responses to those questions. Yes, absolutely. It
John,
is-
hold this one. I'm going to close this out, and I just want to tell you, I appreciate your time. But do you realize that the citizens have absolutely no rights, any recourse to combat your line, compressor stations, and wells? Do you realize that? The corporations have taken that away. And Williams is part of that corporations. Cabot, the whole works of it is part of that. The citizens have been alienated and have no rights or any recourse for this environmental degradation that's taken place. Do you realize that?
You know,
It started decades ago, and then you got the Halliburton loophole. You got the Halliburton loophole, which is not even as bad as some of the other stuff that's taking place. Look at Act 13 in Pennsylvania. Mr. Castile overruled that. Now, the mechanisms in the corporations and political firms, they are trying to override that and get that rescinded. That was a last-ditch effort for the citizens to have a right, because this country is run by corporations, and they don't give a shit about John or I. They're just there to make profits, and here we are holding the bag with our properties being devalued. I can take you, John can take you to Bradford County, and we can show you the harms. You won't believe the shit that's taking place up there. And
You're
there's
right.
over
He would
160
not-
wells, 160 families that do not have water. And you're adding to that mess. Williams ought to stop the line and invest their money in alternative energies. That's what a brilliant man would do. That's what a brilliant man would do. Because all we're doing is adding to climate change. And like I said, if we took you to Bradford County, you'd learn something. and you'd say, damn, I wouldn't want my kids living here. They have to move from their houses, value's gone. They have kids that are sick, cows are dying, and that's their livelihood. John was on the phone with them today. You have no freaking idea what's going on. All you knew, you're just a stamped out employee from Williams. That's all you are. And that's pretty sad. So we're done.